Israel understands, overall, Israel understands that they could have got Haniyeh in Turkey, they could have got Haniyeh in Qatar.
When Chanakya said कि अपने शास्त्र को भूलोगे तो संस्कृति खो दोगे, शस्त्र का त्याग करोगे तो राष्ट्र ही खो दोगे। एक तो आपने मारा इस्माइल हानिया को तेहरान में, दूसरा टाइमिंग देखिए, आपने मारा प्रेसिडेंशियल इनॉग्रेशन के समय। दिस बिजनेस ऑफ प्रॉक्सीज जो सुलेमानी साहब ने शुरू की थी, दिस बिगैन टू वर्क।
आपने बोला कि he said that the basic idea is don't let China and Russia come together. Didn't they read his books?
This is now also a battle, a larger proxy war between a USA-led West and what I call CRIC, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. और इंडिया के संदर्भ में हमें क्या नोट करना है कि we are enjoying a peace dividend. अभी आप देखिए कल बांग्लादेश में क्या हुआ. Geopolitically it's a setback.
Sir,
we have to take care of this.
There will be a time when China and India will get extremely uncomfortable with each other and push may come to shove, sir.
Our geostrategic trajectories are bound to clash. The only way to keep them peaceful is of course by diplomacy, but also by deterrence. We don't want a seat at your table. We will create a new table for ourselves. Today the partner of US Spacecom is not NASA, not Boeing, not Lockheed, Elon Musk.
SpaceX.
Startups. Adani or Ambani, one of these big people. You need big names, and if they invest in defense, we should embrace them.
If 1.9 is not okay, what is okay? Hello friends, welcome to GAP, the Gaurav Arya Podcast. And with me today, I have Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, former GOC&C, RTRAC, the Army Training Command. Sir, thank you very much for joining our podcast. A warm welcome, sir.
Thank you, Gaurav. Great pleasure. आपके दर्शकों को बहुत-बहुत शुभकामनाएं.
Sir, Iran is the flavor of the season. Ismail Haniyeh has been assassinated, and there are various theories, sir. One is the theory that there was a short-range rocket that was fired into the safe house. The other theory is that people sneaked in a bomb 2 months ago, etc., etc. Now, these are tactical issues on the ground, sir.
Yeah.
How the hit has to be delivered. That's a tactical issue, sir. But the broader issue here is that Israel understands, overall, Israel understands that they could have got Haniyeh in Turkey, they could have got Haniyeh in Qatar. They chose to get him in Iran. Does this assassination damage Iran's reputation as the only Muslim country willing to stand up to the West, especially Israel, sir?
Yeah, a very good question. But before we step into that, I just want to make 1 point or 2 points about broader geopolitics, and we'll get to this.
Jay.
See, it's been my observation, and I don't think in India we are too conscious of it, that for the last 5 to 6 years, one time Clinton said it's the economy stupid. Meaning at the end of the day, no matter what, it was the economy which drove things. Today it seems to me that national security and geopolitics, or national security and technology, are driving geopolitics like never before. We need to take note of this, especially in India. And you see what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in Taiwan, what's happening in the Middle East.
Projection of hard power, sir?
Hard power. So I'm not wanting to undermine soft power, but of late it does seem to me hard power, national security, they are beginning to matter. Or in India, while this government has done a lot too in that direction, but the broader polity must take note that, national security, your instrument of force, has begun to matter. And therefore, long back, I keep quoting this, when Chanakya said कि अपने शास्त्र को भूलोगे तो संस्कृति खो दोगे, शस्त्र का त्याग करोगे तो राष्ट्र ही खो दोगे. What was he saying? That where you place your instrument of force in your strategic calculus is extremely important. India has tended to be ambiguous about this placement. I'm making a case that we need to get it to the center because it is beginning to matter, and not to jackboot around the world, but as a technologically enabled, calibrated military, because these things matter. And that's one point I...
Also negotiations?
Of course. But see, there is no diplomacy without military leverage. That's what Mr. Jaishankar says.
Bhai bhai na preach.
Bilkul. Absolutely.
It's there.
So both. And, like you rightly said, Vasudev Kutumbakam is a wonderful idea. One world, one family, one future. But we need to de-risk this with, as we were talking offline, Swami Vivekananda's wisdom when he says that the world is but a gymnasium where nations come to make themselves strong. So at the end of the day, hard power matters. So that is just one soft preamble that I wanted to make. Now coming to this issue, you know, that first part also we must get back is very important कि मारा कैसे. That is also a matter of discussion. But ये जो आप बात कह रहे हैं ना, see why, you are absolutely right. It has taken the conflict to the next phase. I'll tell you why. एक तो आपने मारा इस्माइल हानिया को तेहरान में. दूसरा टाइमिंग देखिए, आपने मारा प्रेसिडेंशियल इनॉग्रेशन के समय. And I've told कि उस कॉम्प्लेक्स में एक और सज्जन थे, the boss of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, ज़ियाद नुकाला, वो बच गया. अगर 2 गए होते, अच्छा 4 अगस्त को इन्होंने, देयर इज द मिनिस्टर फॉर इकोनॉमिक्स ऑफ हमास गाजा में, है तो इकोनॉमिक्स का, बट ही वाज डीलिंग विद ऑल दिस मिलिट्री रिसोर्सिंग, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, लॉजिस्टिक्स में, उसको उड़ाया. उससे कुछ दिन पहले मोहम्मद दैफ, द मिलिट्री कमांडर, ये जो फवाद शुक्र है, he is the right hand man of Nasrullah, और ये राइट हैंड मैन है मिलिट्री एडवाइजर. अब आप देखो ईरान के जहन में क्या हो रहा होगा. एक तो वो मारते हैं, इट्स लाइक इनवाइटिंग अ गेस्ट टू योर हाउस. इट इज़ ह्यूमिलिएशन टू स्टेट क्राफ्ट कि वो आया, वो आपका मेहमान था, आपने उसको उड़ा दिया. और साथ ही में फवाद शुक्र, ये मोहम्मद दैफ, तो जो शुरू में नेतन्याहू साहब ने कहा था ना, दैट द हमास लीडरशिप इज, दे आर डेड मैन वॉकिंग.
यस, he made that statement.
He's made that statement. दूसरी बात इसमें ये देखनी पड़ेगी कि when as you said कि कतर में मार सकते थे, कहीं और मार सकते थे, he was the principal face of negotiation. भाई मैं आपसे बातचीत कर रहा हूँ, आप उससे बातचीत करते हैं, सीज फायर, गाजा सीज फायर, हम मेरे कोई बट. So in terms of statecraft, so I think it's a gross humiliation to Iran.
And Iran would be thinking that even if there is a ceasefire, it will be beneficial on the terms of Hamas.
Yes.
But now they put the cat amongst the pigeons.
There is no ceasefire. But here's my, now, just to be fair, if we have to balance the geopolitics, and we can debate this, जो टॉप लीडरशिप में अभी बचा कौन है, यही असनावर. वो भी मैंने सुना किसी टनल में है, हॉस्टेज से घेरा हुआ है. The Israelis know where he is, but they can't do anything because the hostages are around. So एक तो वो मसला है. बट देखिए दूसरी चीज़ जो है ना, वी हैव टू बी रियलिस्टिक. दिस बिजनेस ऑफ प्रॉक्सीज जो सुलेमानी साहब ने शुरू की थी, दिस बिगैन टू वर्क. लुक एट व्हाट यू वर डूइंग टू इजराइल. पहले इजराइल वाज द प्रीएमिनेंट पावर. Even Kissinger, what did he do as part of broader statecraft? He pushed the Russians out after 73. Russians निकल गए. अब ये, this was American territory, and this Israeli proxy was managing American interests on his behalf. अभी देखिए क्या हुआ. If you look at, मैंने सुना हमास में 24 battalions हैं.
जी.
This point which Patriots makes, you know, when you say destroy Hamas, what does it mean? That it should lose its ability to reconstruct. अब मैंने सुना है 24 battalions में 21 battalions are back in business. So on that bit of destruction of Hamas is not happening. That is where Israelis are failing, where they are doing well in these terms of dead men walking. दूसरा क्या था? Israel had escalation dominance. Escalation, जैसे कल जो leader of opposition है Israel के Lapid, he has criticized Netanyahu. He says we are waiting to be bombed. पहले इसराइल क्या करता, ये करके अगले दिन ईरान में स्ट्राइक करता, प्रीएम्प्टिव. वो अब नहीं कर पा रहा है. और दूसरी बात ये है, इट इज़ नाउ नो लॉन्गर सेल्फ रिलायंट इन मिलिट्री टर्म्स. अगर यूएस, इफ यूएस डजंट कम टू इट्स एड, इट विल नॉट बी एबल टू एब्जॉर्ब द स्ट्राइक. देखिए 14 अप्रैल को क्या था, व्हाट सेव्ड इजराइल? आयरन डोम, एरो 2, एरो 3, Aegis destroyers, UK fighters, American fighters, space-based IR intelligence. उसके बिना Israel was not able to defend itself. तो दो चीज़ें हैं. At one level, this business of assassinations and all, they are spectacular. But I don't know whether you agree with me, in the larger military sense, Iran is also gained. So this, and what has happened, Iran के point of view से, जो मैंने कहा था, जो सुलेमानी मैजिक है, देखिए what did he do? पहले क्या होता था, जब भी कोई प्रॉब्लम होती थी, अमेरिका यूज्ड टू सेंड दीज 2 एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर्स, एवरीबॉडी वुड बैक ऑफ. उस एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर के जवाब में उसने ये 4 लैंड इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स खड़े कर दिए. हमास, हिजबुल्ला, हूथीज और इराक सीरिया मिलिशियाज. अब इन्होंने एक घेरा सा डाल रखा है इसराइल पे. 6 महीने से रेड सी हूथीज ने बंद नहीं कर पाए. व्हाट वाज द अमेरिकन मिलिट्री? $950 billion, 800 bases, 11 एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर्स to keep maritime routes open. 6 महीने से रेड सी नहीं खुला है. I'm told in इस साल में the first 3 months the maritime traffic has halved. The Houthis have attacked 74 vessels. 8 MQ-9 Reaper गिरा दिए. हर $40 million का है, $million का है. So in that sense, this proxy thing had begun to work. Israel, US had no option. See, the marine unit was moved before this action happened. मतलब ये, if not complicity, concurrence, America का था, because they decided, यार ये proxies अभी काबू भी नहीं आ रहे हैं. So when they got this intelligence, they knew the repercussions, and they took this decision. दूसरी बात ये है, 14 अप्रैल को अगर ईरान ने वो हमला किया था, मतलब it was a message to Israel कि don't do it again.
Yes.
The failure of deterrence. फिर कर दिया उसने. So you have to restore deterrence. So it is becoming very, very complicated. और बाद में बात करेंगे. This is now also a battle, a larger proxy war between a USA-led West and what I call CRIC, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. This is, a crumbling old order and a rivalrous new axis which is waiting to be born. Once we discuss this, so geopolitics getting very fascinating. और इंडिया के संदर्भ में हमें क्या नोट करना है कि वी आर एंजॉइंग अ पीस डिविडेंड. वी मस्ट मेक यूज ऑफ दिस पीस डिविडेंड टू डू लॉट ऑफ गुड स्टफ, बिकॉज 3 से 4 साल बाद व्हेन वी आर फेस्ड विद सिमिलर सिचुएशंस वी शुड नॉट बी फाउंड वांटिंग,
बिकॉज ऑल अराउंड अस.
अभी आप देखिए कल बांग्लादेश में क्या हुआ.
जी.
लुक एट इट हियर. If reports are to be believed, and you're the bigger expert, ISI handiwork and Chinese handiwork, a regime which was very friendly to us.
Sir.
Geopolitically, it's a setback.
Sir.
We have to take care of this. और देखिए इंडिया के संदर्भ में, I always say we have this, this pincer with 3 arms. Now it's a 4th arm. China in the WTC is to be honest, it is a power to reckon with. Digital
Absolutely.
combat, I keep making this point. The strategic support force is a force, separate service created for AI enablement. Up sort of like raising an Indian army, AI enablement.
Sir.
This is what they are doing. You're up against that. Western horizons, no matter what you do, देखिए क्या हो रहा है J&K में.
Sir.
And you're an expert on that. The larger terror threat, Pakistan, Taliban. Then you have to make a turn to the seas. The plan is growing. 400 ship की जो navy है, it's not going to patrol the Chinese coastline. वो तो आएगी इधर. उसके ऊपर से अभी बांग्लादेश वगैरह में. सो आई कैनॉट इमेजिन अ कंट्री विच इज फेस्ड विद सच स्ट्रेटेजिक चैलेंजेस. ये जो पीस डिविडेंड है हमारा, जी वी आर करेंटली सीन टू बी द जियोपॉलिटिकल टोस्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, सभी हमको वो करते हैं. इट्स नॉट going to last very long.
So let me ask you a question, sir. You spoke about geopolitical dividend and the challenges that India is faced with, and you said that in a few years, how are we going to be prepared if we face similar challenges going forward? Now, my question to you is, sir, that so you have the PLA in the Himalayas, sir, traditionally, but Himalayas, there are no supply lines, or there is nothing running through the Himalayas, which we can say that, okay, here is where our trade runs through. I'm talking specifically about the line of actual control, sir. So there are no supply chains, if I may, sir. Where is the stress going to be in a future? Let us say there is a war, and I very strongly believe, I have my reasons for believing that there will be a time when China and India will get extremely uncomfortable with each other and push may come to shove, sir. That is my understanding, and we must all have that understanding to be well prepared. My question to you is specifically, sir, how do you see this stress? Do you see it in the Himalayas? Do you see it in the oceans? Do you see it in both the places?
Wonderful question. See, it resonates with me greatly. Let me put it this way. My understanding is, for the first time in the world, you have the one in history, correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure.
You have the world's number 1 economy in PPP terms and number 3 economy in PPP terms, China and India, growing in close proximity. The Himalayas are no longer a buffer. Technology has breached them.
Yes.
And Tibet is no longer a buffer. So no matter how you complicate it in other terms, our geostrategic trajectories are bound to clash. The only way to keep them peaceful is, of course, by diplomacy, but also by deterrence. So this is the time for us to invest in deterrence. When economists argue deterrence is costly, I say wars are costlier. Ask the Ukrainians. And deterrence में भी देखो क्या problem आ रही है. India में this argument has to be, what shall I say, fleshed out. मैं ये कहता हूँ, जब आप कहते हैं ना 1.9% of GDP, 2% of GDP, this is a pure economic argument. The economic survey doesn't factor geopolitics into it. And geopolitics is not constant. तो जब आप 1.9% से स्पेंडिंग करेंगे, आप सोचोगे इतना हम ग्रो कर रहे हैं, इतना हम कर सकते हैं. द पॉइंट इज हाउ मच यू नीड टू स्पेंड. और देखिए यहाँ क्या, दिस आउटलुक्स मैटर. Chinese economy is in trouble. It's tottering at 3%, some say 2, some say half. And yet it raises defense budget last year by 7.2%.
Sir.
Are they callous? Why are they resourcing their military? Because they know, look at their approach to AI. AI में वो कहते हैं, the civilian space in AI is very regulated. It is more regulated than the European Union and the USA. But the strategic military space is freewheeling. वहाँ वो कहते हैं नेशनल सिक्योरिटी में जो AI चाहिए वो जल्दी से हो जानी चाहिए. In our case, the argument will be precisely the opposite. जो हमारी डेमोक्रेटिक वो है कि भाई मिलिट्री पे वो रखो. So this is the main reason of China. And now what you are saying is so right. एक तो बजट्स की बात है. दूसरी बात ये है what you are saying. See, I am arguing ये 400 शिप की जो नेवी है, it's not going to patrol the Chinese coastlines.
Sure.
They are looking to break out of the first island chain. Taiwan is one issue, territorial. They are looking to break out the first island chain. Moment they do that, they will always be here. I remember Admiral Karambir, he used to say, their presence in the IOR is already 100 days. It is already 100 days. They will add on to it. And 4 years from now, 5 years from now, you will be faced with a strategic dilemma and a strategic squeeze. LAC, Western Horizons, the seas. And look at these जो तरक्की कर रहे हैं इन दी अदर डोमेन, स्पेस, साइबर. यार देखो, स्पेस टुडे अफेक्ट्स स्क्वाड एंड कंपनी बैटल्स. हमारे यहाँ मानना है स्पेस इज लॉफ्टी थिंग. इट इज अफेक्टिंग स्क्वाड एंड कंपनी बैटल्स. साइबर, आई गिव एन एग्जांपल. यूक्रेन में the Russians were so sharp with their cyber in the first 2 to 3 weeks. The Ukrainian national security grid and of course the civilian grid was forced to migrate to cloud in 14 days. They called all teams from Microsoft, Amazon. What is our understanding of cyber in our context? तो हमारी चुनौतियाँ जो हैं बहुत विकट हैं. And that is why the national security conversation जो राष्ट्रीय सुरक्षा की जो बातचीत है, चिंतन है, उसमें गहराई आने की ज़रूरत है. It is very superficial in my view. So that is the larger issue and I couldn't agree with you more. अब मैं एक और चीज़ करना पड़ा. If you don't resource your military right, I am not talking of the mighty Americans. There is a CSI study which says कि अमेरिका के पास जो $950 billion because they have been inefficient, 7 दिन के प्रिसिशन म्यूनिशंस मिसाइल्स नहीं हैं ताइवान की लड़ाई करने के लिए. अमेरिकन एडमिशन.
I beg your pardon?
7 days of precision missiles they don't have to fight in a Taiwan contingency. CIS study, mighty America. जब मैं दूसरा देता हूँ. सी जो आत्मनिर्भरता एंड डिफेंस वगैरह की बात हो रही, क्यों इतनी महत्वपूर्ण है? Chinese manufacturing capacities, 2004 में, they were half of that of the USA. Today they are twice. Look at the consequence. The Chinese military industrial complex is 5 to 6 times more efficient than the Americans. Americans know it, and who else knows it? Z. That's why he's getting bolder in Taiwan. एक और मैं आपको example देता हूँ. I really want to drive home this point.
They are not just making microwaves, sir.
Yeah. अब देखिए, I'm quoting CIA director Nicholas Burns.
Sir.
He says कि अद्विका एक शहर था यूक्रेन में which the west or the Ukrainians surrendered 3-4 महीने पहले.
Sure.
वो surrender के पहले they did an audit, an operational audit of 2 Ukrainian brigades. और हम mighty west की बात कर रहे हैं, USA. एक ब्रिगेड के पास 15 आर्टिलरी राउंड थे, दूसरे ब्रिगेड के पास 42 मोटर राउंड थे. तो बेचारे हारे नहीं, उनको हरवाया गया है. It is not valor. Lack of valor, it is lack of funding. So in our context also I say, भाई valor has its limits, it needs to be funded. जो आप बात कह रहे हैं 2028, 2029, whenever this clash with China comes, we should not be found wanting in this manner. I'm not saying 15 and 42,
Sir.
but the larger point is to resource your military industrial complex. तो ये पूरी चीज़ें हैं, and that is why I'm saying why आत्मनिर्भरता and defense is so important. जो हमने steps लिए हैं. I'm quoting the Prime Minister when the Prime Minister says that this Atmanirbharta and defense is about freeing the forces of innovation, energy and enterprise from the scourge of process and precision. Niyamo ka jaal is his words. All these startups and private sector, they have to be freed. Once you do that, ये कमाल करेंगे. But जब तक आप इनको जकड़ के रखेंगे, वो military industrial complex नहीं भरे. Now you please understand, national security is such a complicated matter. Everything has to be set right. और हम बात किसकी कर रहे हैं यार? वी आर टॉकिंग ऑफ a near hegemon. China is a peer power. Unfortunately, he's your neighbor. If he had been in Latin America, I wouldn't have bothered. But over here. So look at the Chinese-US contest and draw lessons in our bilkul problems. Like, if I may just complete the argument in the whole context. See, LAC-LC is one part.
Yes.
There we are pretty okay. I'm not saying we should neglect it. We can reinforce it. Look at the other thing, which are our weaknesses are in strategic deterrence and in power projection. 14 April की मैंने आपको बात की. Look at what you need. The AD needs to be so sophisticated. You know what is the big difference between the US and the Soviets? One big thing. US has this whole space-based intelligence, IR enabled. Russia is weak there. Russia has basically ground-based radars. That takes your whole early warning. You lose significantly. This could be the difference between us and China. So we need to invest in LEO systems, space-based IR.
Sure.
Otherwise that int will not come. 14 अप्रैल को जो what saved Israel, हमारे बरखिलाफ एक पूरी चाइना की रॉकेट फोर्स है. People say it is the most sophisticated instrument of long range precision. If they fire, what do we need to do? These kind of investments in strategic deterrence, so important. AD profile. अभी आप देखिए drones, missiles. That day, 14 they tossed Iran ने मारे क्या drones. Now, this is the second point about budgeting. एक तो मैं कह रहा हूँ पैसे की बात. Then you can be smartly asymmetric. देखो, Iran is a country under sanctions, यार. They have built the smartest low-cost drones. They are a drone superpower. क्या किया उन्होंने? जब रशिया तकलीफ में था यूक्रेन में, they offered to give them drones. उनको 3,000 ड्रोन देते हैं क्यों? बेवकूफ़ नहीं है. They use these drones in the Ukraine theater, use that data from there,
yes, sir,
upgrades, and are using them here.
Yes, sir.
ततरस्तान में उन्होंने फैक्ट्री खोली हुई है. So asymmetricity is also an issue. In the same budgets, we need to do far better. जो नहीं हो रहा है, जब वो तब होगा जब innovation, energy, enterprise. आज जो defense PSUs हैं, that kind of bureaucratic response will not deliver. ये चीज़ें मैं आपको एक और छोटा सा ये देता हूँ. You heard of this Parentia? It's a startup. Sure. उसका boss is Alex Carr. Look how these chaps. तो February 2022 में हमला होता है. March में it seeks an interview with audience with Zelensky. उसको मिलता नहीं है in the normal process. He drives across Poland. Some way he manages and he reaches in and he tells him कि I just want access to all your data in Ukraine. I'm talking of the relevance of defense entrepreneurs when you compare them with the PSU. तो Zelensky कहता है क्या करेंगे आप? सर आप मेरे को डेटा दीजिए और मैं आपकी सारी जो ये कॉम्बैट हो रहा है, I will make it AI enabled. And to cut a long story short, the data was given free and he has brought AI enablement into their fire, maneuver, logistics. If Ukraine is surviving today, the Russian onslaught, it is because of innovation of this kind. और कार ने क्यों किया ये? जो उसको डेटा मिलता है, he is going to create global products and services and make his money elsewhere.
Absolutely.
This is the sharpness which needs to come into our Atmanirbharta. This business of GSQR, QR, this is all dead. यार ये पुरानी कहानी हो गई है. So these kind of migrations, which Atmanirbharta and defense.
There is a certain comfort with GSQR.
Exactly. So GSQR, everything there's a story. So Ash Carter, जो उनके डिफेंस सेक्रेटरी हैं, उसने एक किताब लिखी है 5-sided box Pentagon. He was a man of science, Ash Carter. So when he comes to Pentagon, he observes कि भाई इनके यहाँ साइंस की बड़ी कमी है. US military की बात हो रही है. तो he rings up Eric Skimmett and says, Eric, come over. We want to discuss how we can bring technology into the US military. Eric tells him, Ash, those days are over. You want technology? Come to Silicon Valley. I'm not coming to you. And he goes there with his generals and they flash on the slide, GSQR. हमको ये चाहिए. Eric tells him, Ash, GSQR is dead. We make stuff, you choose. So how this whole thing is changing.
Yes.
ये हमारे context में भी हमको इसको समझना जरूरी है.
I always wanted to know regarding the Russia-Ukraine war, sir. Now, there is this frontage in which the war is going, let's say 1,000 odd kilometers, give or take, sir. And this has not seen the kind of horizontal escalation that normally you have seen in Israel-Hamas. Spread all over. And spread to Iran, it spread X, Y, Z. This has remained contained. However, what we see that the West is now half willing to give money. They're half willing to give money, and Trump says if he comes to power by the end of this year, if Trump is the president, He's saying, I'm going to end it in 24 hours. And the way he'll end it is he'll tell Zelensky, no more money for you. And if there is no more money, valor can only be effective for maybe 72 hours. After that, when they run out of bullets, they run out of bullets. Sir. So how do you think this is going to go in the future? Because Trump has very, very categorically said he's not paying money. Even under Joe Biden, sir, that 60 billion that was supposed to be given. There were questions in the Congress, till when can we keep on funding this? Our own infrastructure in the United States of America, has gone down the drain and we need to do so much more. There is a lot of difference of opinion. Now, Zelensky has committed, sir. His country is at war. His country is at war. And Trump also says that peace means that be ready to give up that 18, 20, 25% of the Ukrainian territory that the Russians have under their control. How do you see this panning out, sir?
So, Trump is from the corporate world. हर चीज को पैसे की नजर से देखता है, which is right.
Sir.
By the way, I agree with him on this. See, what are the arguments? What are the challenges as I look at it? पहले तो जो मैंने क्रिक की बात की ना, देखो, I don't know whether it's by design or by accident, but देखो चीन ने कैसे फंसाया यूएस को. Obama announces pivot in 2010. मतलब we will move to the Western Pacific and deal with the Chinese. He senses this. Till they get entangled in Ukraine. Now Israel is entangling them in Middle East. Their budget is already $950 billion. Their debt is $35 trillion. जो debt servicing है, उसका जो ब्याज है, is $1 trillion. Neil Ferguson, historian, tells you that whenever the debt is more than your defense budget, you're in trouble. $950 billion, $1 trillion, उनके पास पैसे ही नहीं है. Now, if they have to grow the military bandwidth, see, the question is, do they fight in 4 theaters or they win in 1? उनके दिमाग में देखो कैसे फंसाया है चीन ने इन सबको. अच्छा, हम इसके 2-3 कारण हैं. Western innocence, I say strategic innocence. You are the richest cohort in the world, European Union. आपने कहा साहब हम डिफेंस पे नहीं खर्च करेंगे. When Macron called them brain dead, they thought कि defense is unproductive, wasteful. एंजेला मर्कल ने सोचा भाई हम गैस की डील कर लेंगे और पुतिन साहब हमको छोड़ देंगे. उसने तुमको गैस भी भेजा, अभी तुम. So this whole logic constantly that only money, business, economics will secure you has not worked at all. That is the thing of Ukraine. Trump का argument बिल्कुल बढ़िया है. He said हमारे पास और चीज़ें, and if you listen to the other people, who are his men like Elbridge Colby and all the more thoughtful people, they say the threat is there. You please take care of yourself. You are such a rich country. अभी उनको कुछ अकल आ रही है. Now 18 countries have promised 2%. Many of them have said that floor spending will be 3%. Trump तो कह रहा है 4.5% करो. अब 4.5 में तो मर जाएंगे. But you're right, Trump is going to do it. And the logic is simple. Yeah, please secure yourself. हमको और we have got larger things. Now you look.
सबकी जिम्मेदारी अमेरिका थोड़ा ना ले लेगा.
बिल्कुल.
He is right.
He is absolutely right. And now look at the consequence here. Taiwan. In 1995, China acts funny over Taiwan. आंखें दिखाता है. क्लिंटन साहब 2 एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर भेजते हैं, 24 घंटे में चाइना पीछे हो जाता है. इट नोज इट डजंट हैव द प्रॉमिस. टुडे एडमिरल पपारो इज टेलिंग बाइडन कि हमने एयरक्राफ्ट कैरियर भेजे तो हम ही डूब जाएंगे. सो ही इज टॉकिंग ऑफ हेल्थस्केप. व्हाट इज हेल्थस्केप? हेल्थस्केप इज डिस्गाइज फॉर ऑटोनमस. लुक एट हाउ द इक्वेशंस हैव चेंज्ड विद A280. द अमेरिकन्स नो इट. इसका पॉलिटिकल फॉल आउट क्या है? दैट यू आर चैलेंजिंग अमेरिकन पावर प्रोजेक्शन in the first island chain, Western Pacific. Xi is telling Biden, and he told this to him in California, कि भाई now retreat to your corner of the Pacific. वो दिन गए. आप वहाँ जाइए. This is ours. And then we will see between us we can slice up the world.
ऐसा हुआ क्यों sir? It's very surprising because America was this big daddy.
See, President Roosevelt spoke of the arsenal of democracy. ये एक बड़ा अच्छा argument है, आप जाइए उसमें. And all these lessons relate to India also. He says if you have to secure your values, make sure your arsenal is in sharp. मैंने आपको बताया अद्विका में क्या हाल हो रहा है 7 दिन वो. You weakened your arsenal of democracy. देखो किसिंगर was a wise man. किसिंगर ने बोला उसकी जो स्टेट क्राफ्ट की बुनियाद थी, he said Russia and China should never come together. आपने रशिया और चाइना को दो में बैठा दिया है. So your statecraft has grown wild. You have not done your spending right. The military, Americans. Milley was asked this question in in one of his depositions to the US Senate. This question which I just raised, $950 billion, 11 aircraft carriers, 800 bases, and an opera of failing deterrence. अफगानिस्तान में आप हारे, यूक्रेन में हारे, वेस्ट एशिया में होती आपसे भी डर था. So this is how.
तो वियतनाम में भी आ रहे सर. हर जगह आ रहे हैं.
I'm not making fun of them. I'm trying to say कि यार, this is how important these things are. So you're absolutely right. अब देखो क्या हो रहा है उससे. But what is now worrying is we are back to the Cold War. मैं कल कहीं पढ़ रहा था. The Americans are now deploying intermediate range missiles in Germany. और जर्मनी मान गया है. पिछली बार जब हो रहा था प्रोटेस्ट हुए थे, उसकी कॉन्सिक्वेंस आप देखिए. Intermediate missiles come there. They are 2 minutes from Moscow because USA, Russia doesn't have space-based, they only have ground-based radars. 2 minutes means it has no option but to delegate the decision-making of nuclear weapons to field commanders. So how, because of one weakness, this business ki hum bhai mauj karenge, I think George Yeo argues, the Europeans were saying we'll work 4 days a week. Chinese were saying we'll work 7 days a week. उन्होंने कहा हम समर हॉलीडे लेंगे, तो आप लीजिए, ये आपका होगा. Consequence, not saving on defense, not spending on defense in the conventional manner, you've got the nuclear war to your door.
So please allow me to interrupt you here. So what essentially you're saying is that because they do not have space-based, early warning systems, let us say,
Yes.
the Russians, and the US missiles in Germany are 2 minutes away from Moscow.
Yes.
Therefore, what the Russians have to do is delegate responsibility to their lower commanders, which means that Moscow is not always controlling
Yes.
the push of the button which may launch a nuclear strike. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yes, and the larger argument is that if you're not careful about your statecraft, आप इन चीज़ों की बारीकियों में नहीं जाएंगे.
जी.
Space, cyber, ये you will be faced with all this. Look at the whole arguments. We will not spend enough on defense. Our gas will secure us. हम 4 दिन काम करेंगे, मौज करेंगे. करिए. This is what's going to happen.
I think Europe has become soft, sir.
Absolutely.
After Second World War.
Somebody said the European armies were civilians in uniform. और NATO के बारे में American soldiers would say no action, talk only. जब अफगानिस्तान में पहली बार गए थे,
अच्छा, I didn't know, sir.
there, वो जो slangs होते हैं, low level slangs.
Yes.
The Europe, I think Japan said that, we don't commit soldiers, we will give you dogs. Germans ने बोला we don't patrol by night. तो क्या दिन में patrolling होती है? So this is the concept. And the serious
The German army refused to patrol at night.
Yes, they were not willing to get into all this. I think it was, who was it, Tommy Franks or one of these people, I've read his biographies. ये हालत था इनका. And the smart thing on that was, let America do all this, carry the heavy lifting of national security.
Sure.
We will eat the fruit. It doesn't happen.
Trump is saying no.
He's right. In my view, he's absolutely right. Because the larger threat is China. मैंने आपको बताया वहाँ क्या हो रहा है.
अगर वो यूक्रेन में ही फंस गया,
बिल्कुल.
अगर उसने फिर इजराइल हमास के बीच में ही फंसना था. अच्छा, both these things actually.
So actually, Gaurav, we must look at this in terms of interconnected theatres. जो ताइवान में हो रहा है, जो यूरोप में हो रहा है, जो मिडिल ईस्ट में हो रहा है. देखो, मैं आपको छोटी सी बात बताऊँ. देखो, here is my observation. What was the basis of American power? It was the ability of their military, the freedom to roam the globe. कि भाई जहाँ पे भी प्रॉब्लम होगी विल गो. अब देखिए उसने क्या किया. Everywhere he has created a hegemon to checkmate you. यूरोप में रशिया, also nuclear power. Middle East में ईरान, 2 weeks away nuclear power. कोरियन पेनिनसुला में नॉर्थ कोरिया
सर.
और यहाँ पे वो खुद है साहब. अब आइए आप. So though there is no evidence, अच्छा look at this innocence, strategic innocence. जब ये अटैक हुआ था यूक्रेन पे, तो ब्लिंकन साहब ने कहा कि देखो कुछ भी हो जाए, जो हमारे पहले इयन ब्रेमर, 3 months Russia will be on their knees. Putin has created a war economy, is growing at 5%. It may not be the best way, but he said, देखो चाइना कुछ भी करेगा, weapons नहीं देगा. So it now turns out, last visit of Blinken, his own admission, चाइना ने जैमिंग इक्विपमेंट दिया है, माइक्रो चिप्स दिए हैं, वो चिप्स लगे हैं टू मेक ऑल दोज डम बॉम्ब्स, ग्लाइड बॉम्ब्स व्हिच आर डूइंग सच वंडरफुल बिजनेस. वो चिप्स गए, वो जो ड्रोन्स थे ततरस्तान में, दे हैव गिवन CNC इक्विपमेंट, प्रोसेसिंग, मेटल्स, सब कुछ यार. The Russian resurgence is because of Chinese supplies. So look at how their mindsets work and how our mindsets work. We have to be very conscious of this. ये जो क्रिक है, और देखिए उनके आप बाकी स्टेटमेंट्स वगैरह पढ़िए, they are saying कि listen, today we don't want a seat at your table. We will create a new table for ourselves.
सर हेनरी किसिंगर की आपने बात करी, आपने बोला कि he said that the basic idea is don't let China and Russia come together. Didn't they read his books or didn't they follow his? Because now what they have done is they have pushed Russia into such a corner that Russia has nowhere else to go except China.
Exactly. So why did you poke the bear in the eye? If your threat was China, why did you poke the bear in the eye? वो जो नेटो को आप नजदीक लेते गए
जी,
और कैसे नेटो को, कमजोर नेटो को जो खर्च ही नहीं करना चाहता था, जो ऐसे नेटो को ले गए जो आप जो see I reiterate this, the richest cohort in the world cannot defend itself. अच्छा देखो एक और आर्गुमेंट, हाउ दीज चैप्स आर एजाइल एंड फ्लीट फुटेड. ये किशोर महबूबानी का आर्गुमेंट है, बड़ा अच्छा है. ट्रेड, ASEAN is started in 1967. जब वो शुरू हुआ, इट वाज व्यूड एज अ प्रो वेस्ट ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, वेस्ट का था वो. चाइना वॉचेस फ्रॉम द साइड लाइन्स. ASEAN is looking for a free trade agreement with China, with USA. USA कहता है no, we don't have. China does a free trade agreement with ASEAN in 2000. जब China did a free trade argument with ASEAN, the trade was $40 billion. Today, China-ASEAN is $975 billion. जब USA ने किया, उनका trade था was $135 billion. Today it is $450. 975, 450. So even in the other areas, they are more agile and fleet-footed. Today, the ASEAN-China relationship is the largest trade relationship in the world. It is larger than European Union and USA. So we are all democracies.
Almost $1 trillion. Huh?
Yes, we are democracies, so we want democratic values to triumph.
Sure.
But democracies cannot be lazy because the others are not. Now, in the Indian context also, I make this argument. देखो यार, हमने बहुत, I was just arguing with you outside, कि we have done the most ambitious reforms in national security since independence. I really believe in that.
India, you're talking about.
India, yeah, CDS, DMA, DRDO, we never thought these things. But given the complexity of the China challenge, that is the word, and the great transformations in character of war, Mark Milley says they are most fundamentals in recorded history. ये जो बात कर रहा हूँ, drones, space. Space देखो यार, I knew you were growing up. मेरे को याद है, space was this lofty thing which few countries did. Russia, USA, हम भी बड़ा उसमें we used to take pride कि यार इंडिया ने भी किया है. Lofty endeavor. Elon Musk goes, just brings down the cost of launching rockets. Today, the partner of US Spacecom is not NASA, not Boeing, not Lockheed. Elon Musk.
SpaceX.
Startups. Can you imagine? Startup का वो जो है Starlink, it was used for strategic communications for Zelensky with the world, strategic communications, and for artillery targeting. I am saying the next phase of our defense evolution, with due respect to the PSUs, will not come from the PSUs. उनमें है ही नहीं innovation वगैरह की फितरत.
So let's say HAL, sir, for example. Let's be specific, HAL. Let's say it gets into research and development. So it says no more manufacturing. We have the best scientists. We're going to have the best engineers. We are a lab. We are a laboratory. We are a study circle. And what we're going to do is give you cutting edge R&D. And MOD can fund various endeavors at private companies like the Americans do. Do you think that's a better idea than us or the government getting into production, sir?
So, HAL is one of the better ones. So let's not pick HAL for axing.
Sure.
That's my view. But see, the good thing that is happening is HAL is no longer a monopoly. जब हमने Tata Airbus को बोला,
जी,
we are putting a challenge to our own HAL. It will do good to our own HAL. Up in many of the schemes that the HAL is doing, what do? They either get into collaboration with foreign companies, take their TOT and churn it out. I am saying you pick an Indian startup, national champion का जो concept है, a bright Indian startup, बड़े हैं, and tell them you will build this technology for us and leave it to them. Instead of sitting over them and kind of mentoring them, only then this innovation will happen. देखो हमारे यहाँ startups हैं, ये 113 AI, Sameer Joshi, some of them have been picked by US Spacecom. और कोई मेहरबानी पे नहीं करेगा. When they see, only then will they put their money. One of them is doing some deal about maritime domain awareness with Spacecom. One is doing with the Predator deal में. So there are startups. Some of these startups have come. They are doing the next generation fabs, multi-sectoral fabs, non-silicon fabs. So there are a lot of startups. देखो होना क्या चाहिए? I think I was speaking to you outside also. We have to now embrace the system of national champions. बाहर क्या होता है? Boeing, Lockheed, so many of the South. You say यार ये बंदा है, इसी को हम देंगे. हमारे यहाँ क्या होता है? Say you are a defense entrepreneur. I say okay, Gaurav, very good. Get into this. Then you ask me, will I give you an order? I cannot tell you that. 7 साल बाद अगर आप L1 होंगे तो मैं आपको ऑर्डर दूंगा. तो आप क्या करोगे? You will humor me in a seminar and go and put your money somewhere else. अरे you need what they call in the West firm demand signaling. अच्छा हमारे यहाँ कितने प्रोसीजर से कैसे होगा? हम we will say GFR वगैरह. वेस्ट कहता है नेशनल सिक्योरिटी एक्सेप्शंस, स्मार्ट टेक्नोलॉजी, नेशनल सिक्योरिटी एक्सेप्शन तो आपको देना है. सो दे डू दिस नेशनल चैंपियंस. वी हैव टू से द आईडेक्स सिस्टम इज अ प्रीटी फेयर सिस्टम. उसमें से जो उभर के आएंगे आप अपने स्टार्टअप चुनिए.
Somebody is talking about the tyranny of L1, sir. I don't know how it works.
I don't know if the original thing, but I have said it. It is the tyranny of L1. It's not going to work. What is going to work? See, I'll give you what is happening in the West, which can happen in our case. And all these things will happen. I'm sure that time has come.
Yes.
What they say in a joint military business case. I'll give you an example. So say we decide that swarming is the next technology. So you as a corporate entrepreneur tell me swarming. I'm from the army. I say, okay, where do I need swarming? So can I use drone swarms to counterattack armor? I've given you a definite case. Counterattack armor. It can be done. You are drone swarming. Now, when we come to this agreement, so you are, say, a corporate major, you pick your startup. He will give you something else. You, this startup, now you need some technology which you don't have. The route is Indus X, reach out to American corporate. And me, we are on board. Now, once we sign this, we are equally committed. The government, startup, yahan ka, nobody goes back now. Now, as you grow through this battle, womb to tomb, there will be problems. You all have to adjust. And you, once the technology matures, the orders will come to you. And you will reap the profits. And I will get your product. अब मैं इसको L1 वाले में कर दूं कि आप बनाइए, हम फिर वो L1 में कोई आ जाएगा. Who will put his money? And why we are also shy. For example, Adani or Ambani, one of these big people. You need big names in. If they invest in defense, we should embrace them. और कौन करेगा तुम्हारे लिए? अगर अडानी नहीं करेगा, you will ultimately get it from Boeing, Lockheed. So, and defense technologies and all, no one is going to put their money unless there are firm orders.
Also, ये long gestation projects.
Exactly, यार, long gestation projects. National security का है. कौन पैसे लगाएगा?
वो चल रहा है सर 5th generation का तो 15 साल से चल ही रहा है.
So apart from structural corrections, theatre command and all, these cultural transitions need to come. देखो, who's driving AI in US? Craig Martel. Craig Martel is no service officer. He is not a civil servant. Craig Martel did machine learning for Lyft, cab company. But उसको AI की समझ है. So when he comes here, he's told कि देखो ये हमारा सारा data है. You sign this agreement of security. अब इस देखो combat data से क्या production निकलेगी. हमारे यहाँ तो 5 साल ये आर्ग्यूमेंट रहेगा कि अगर हम उसको डेटा दे क्यों, हम इतना सीक्रेट डेटा है. गुड. So वही somebody said, Ash Carter told one of the American generals, the same argument. He said, see, you can be secure with your data in your useless silos, or you can get data to talk to data for combat productivity. Now it is all these, we are stuck in this phase that we have started the reforms, but ये जो चीज़ें हैं इनसे झुलझना पड़ेगा. We have to get to the next level. And look at the Chinese. I keep giving that example of civil military fusion. वहाँ तो फर्क ही नहीं है. और उसको उल्टा करते हैं. National security free wheeling.
Sure.
सारे चेक्स उधर. हमारे यहाँ उल्टा होगा. डिफेंस पे सारे चेक्स.
सारे चेक्स होंगे, सिविलियंस पे कोई चेक.
So these big changes need to come in our country.
Absolutely. So my last question to you, sir.
Yeah.
And I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Yes.
Our 1.9 is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there are many things that you recommended, sir, not just one. And it's not just a function of money, it's also a function of mindset, or our ecosystem, the environment, etc., etc. And this is a direct question to you, sir. If 1.9 is not okay, what is okay?
Okay, it's a very good question. So in all humility, let me give a small suggestion. So let me say that, or may I make a very humble suggestion to the finance minister, कि भाई, we need more money. So you say give $50 billion over 5 years. जो भी आप दे सकते हैं. But tell the CDS that not one penny of this will go to your LAC&C. वहाँ आप internally करिए. All this should go to emerging technologies. Space, cyber, this will ensure two things. पैसा भी मिलेगा and the money should not disappear into that.
Sure.
So वो CDS के the owner pseudonyms की भाई, there you do some internal stuff because I'm making an argument for both. See,
You're talking about funding research, huh?
No, I'm saying internal optimization. See, I'll give you one more example to drive home that point because I must be fair.
Yeah.
American defense budget $950 billion.
Yes.
China say 300-400. We are 100, 9500. In similar defense differentials, 3:1. America, China,
India.
Why is Beijing causing displacement anxiety in Washington and we don't cause similar displacement anxiety? Because all of the reform, innovation, procurement, theatre commands, we are slow. So this reform is needed internally to generate internal optimization. Do funding here. That is one argument. So LAC, LC, वगैरह you do from within.
But I never thought of it that way. So it's a very interesting point that you make.
Yeah, I'm making both because if I'm the CDS, I'll say कि भाई internal reform में करना वो हो रहा है. You will just see it happening. Having done this reform, my part of the bargain, I need some more money because of the China challenge and all. And that is a fair argument. Say 50, whatever you can spare. But this should not go into these things. And I'm not saying it will go. I'm from the organization, so I know how it will inadvertently disappear. This must come only for future, call it drone cyber force, AD upgradations, space, cyber, because these tend to be at the the lower end of our combat chain. Or in conclusion, I would like to say one thing. See, these are absolutely big challenges. If the Indian military has to grow to the next level, it has to get on top of the AI robotics food chain. Because AI robotics will transform the way you war fight. देखिए आज AI में क्या हो रहा है आज? Because of AI, what has happened is that the decision cycles have shrunk. So all your fire, maneuver, and you will know the OODA loop. It is so important.
Sure.
Now when AI is generating an OODA cycle, it is just say, hypothetically, say it is 3 minutes. And in a human-enabled OODA cycle, it is 5 minutes. अब क्या हो रहा है? हम कहते हैं safety वाली बात. The AI-generated OODA cycles are getting so small that the humans can only oversee. They cannot intervene. And if you intervene, your cycles are longer. Now, what would you prefer? Would you want overseen OODA cycle, which is more efficient, or a cycle where you intervene, which is less efficient? These are the complications in AI. But first you have to get that AI going. China has 238 large language models. We have none. So look at AI robotics food chain is the next business. Drone is what? It is the foothills of autonomy. I was there 3-4 साल पहले जब ये drones शुरुआत हुई थी and when they were taking off guns, I am a gunner. I said, हो नहीं सकता. Haven't they started doing it? Today, Ukraine may not a single artillery round is fired without the benefit of reconnaissance on drones. तो ये जो सारे changes हो रहे हैं, this is the big challenge before the Indian military. We have to, और हमारे देखो, our real challenges are what? Can you draw down manpower? I'm served in 19 day and all. You cannot. मैं बताऊँ तो 2 बटालियन आप पुल करोगे जो JNK में हो रहा है वो. It is a life challenge.
London's eat men.
Yes, technology supplements. Technology doesn't substitute. So ये जो argument लोगों की भाई just draw it down. What has happened here? Just because you disturb the grid. You disturb the grid after Kargil, see what happened. Almost an army commander got shot. You disturb the grid for rebalancing, see what's happening. So these are life challenges. It's not easy. Yet you have to do something. If you have to, so, और दूसरी एक और बात है, the CDS. Our whole technology ecosystem was created when the military was out of the loop. Largely, our CMR trajectories unfortunately were that. So technology DRDO बनाता था, वही technology वो समझते थे वाजिब है, पैसे वो लगाते थे. Today now, the CDS must come in as a high-level budget holder. He must control these funds of technology, or at least be a co-equal. If he is not a co-equal, these are the cultural transitions I'm talking about. Internal optimization, some additional funding, which I said for niche technologies, and the CDS must control these technologies. If the DRDO controls the technology, nothing else, they are not military men, we will get the technologies that the DRDO thinks we need, and not the technologies that
we think we need.
We need to win wars. Ultimately, what matters is winning wars. See, the argument, don't be so critical. After all we have done, aren't we better than what we were 10 years back? Of course. You are far better. But you're not going to fight with yourself. You're going to fight with the Chinese.
Yes.
This is the problem in national security. You have to win. So war-winning technologies. And not कि यार 6 साल से हम बेहतर हुए हैं फिर भी तुम critique करते हो बात वो नहीं है. Of course you are better. So I mean all these arguments, they need to be put together.
Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thanks, Gaurav.
And
Great pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us with General Raj Shukla. We had a lovely conversation. We went to Iran, and then we went to Ukraine. We went to the US, we went to China, and we stopped by in North Korea for a little while. I'll be back soon with another new podcast. Till then, stay tuned and Jai Hind.